What's up, guys? Welcome to the Beyond the Cleats podcast. I'm here with Ailaina, and today we are going to talk about the role of role players, what that entails, what it is, what the thought process is as a player, going, maybe from a starter in high school, and then you get to a college team, and you're entering kind of a role-playing position, because it's definitely a shift. For sure. So for anyone who doesn't understand what a role player is, as it's been explained to me, it was always like something that I understood, but it wasn't really coined till I got to college, and they're like, oh, well, this is a role player. You're in a role-playing position on the team instead of an actual playing position. So essentially it's the players who aren't, the starting nine, or what is it in soccer? The subs, yeah. So
Starting 11.
Yeah, starting a leg 11. Yeah. Is there 11 people on a soccer field?
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
It's okay.
But I found it a lot different with softball being tough, because it's like 9, and then like those 9 are out there, and you're maybe so what is the thought process? I'm gonna ask you, because I don't really understand. In terms of like substitutions, What is kind of that thought process of being like that starting 11 versus like a sub?
Yeah, so in soccer, there's only so many subs you can have, like each half and stuff like that. So it also brings a component to it too, where you can only put so many people in and take so many people off. And like the first half, you can come in and like you can go into a game, and then you have to stay on, and then like you can't go back off, I think, and go back on the game. The second half is like you can switch, I think, twice or something. Like there's all these rules. I don't remember the whole thing, but
so there's certain amount. So you can only be there's only a certain amount of substitutions they have per game.
Yeah. So you only get a certain amount, and then like there's like, especially for like D3, it's a little bit different too, because like you, like I said, like you can come in and off like at specific times, but you can't do it an excessive amount of time. So like if I was going to go into the field, like if I was going off the bench as a sub, I would like hope that it was like a long time, because I knew it wasn't coming out, because like you only get so many subs. Or if I was coming off, I wasn't going back in the half, and so like I'd get like really frustrated.
I was gonna say, would you get frustrated
if it was like 5 minutes? I'm like, you didn't even give me time to do any. I didn't touch the ball, so how could I have messed up in 5 minutes?
That's the immediate like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, like
which is true. Which is the same way if like you're told, like, if you're like, hey, we're gonna have you kind of this role position, and you're like, well, like why? What is that's a whole nother conversation,
and then you're
that we'll get to later.
If I'm like, all that stuff, yeah.
Is it? I guess if you're in the starting, or if you're in the you're not in the starting 11, is it almost like a hope that you're gonna get in, or like, oh, I hope they put me in like the.
Yeah, I think it used to be like that for me. Like I'd be like, oh, like sitting there like twiddling my thumbs, like hoping I
because the only thing I could really like relate to was if we were like really winning and I would get in, or I was also I was a pinch runner. Yeah. So a pinch runner in softball is essentially, when you got someone on base and you need to score a run and you need someone fast, I go in the game.
Yeah.
And I score runs.
Right.
So that was always kind of like my mindset. I was like, oh, I hope someone gets on base. I hope like coach puts me in.
Yeah.
And then they're in scoring position, and then coach doesn't put you in. You're like, what are you doing? So I can relate it on a little level.
Certain times in a game you can do that too, or how many times you can do it, or is it like one person you can do it for? Like, how does that work?
So there's something in softball. So kind of two things. So one is called a flex, where whoever's batting, if they get on base, you can flex them and essentially run for them. So one thing that they'll do in softball is I'll run for like the catcher, so they can go put their gear on. Or maybe if they're not there's fast catchers out there. I'm not saying there's not. There's a lot of either speedy or savvy catchers out there, but a majority they would just like flex me in, or you can only be subbed once per game.
Okay.
So it's like you have the starting lineup, and essentially they put you in the game.
Yeah.
And then once they take you out of the game, you can't go back in. So it's like that's
like the second half of a soccer game too. You can go in, but once you're out, you're out. Which makes sense. But Yeah, that's interesting, I think. And I think for me, it started, like I said, it started out that way where I'd be like, oh my God, like, I hope I get in. Like, when I was a young, like, athlete, like, where I'm, like, a freshman, like, not getting, like, really
like
any
nothing,
minutes at
like
all. Like, I get some, but, like, not. And, yeah, not a lot.
It's like when you're blowing them out of the water, you're like, come on, coach, put me in. Just put me in freaking left field. Like, come on.
I'm like, whatever it is. I don't care where I go. I could be a goalie for all I care. Like, put me on the field.
Just put me in the game.
And then I think as I got older and more, like, seasoned as an athlete and, like, in college sports and, like, I was playing a lot of minutes, then I was just, like, I knew I was going in. I was just about, like, when was I going in? And, like, when I wasn't starting anyway, it would be like, all right, well, no, I'm going in. I know I'm playing minutes. I know I was going to play a half of a game. I just didn't know the time that I was going to play.
Yeah, which game?
Half or more than a half, depending on, like, coaching staff opinions and stuff like that. But
100%.
Yeah.
It's definitely, like, one of those things where it's almost like you got to switch your mindset because you're very competitive. Role players play such an immense part of the game that sometimes, like, we don't really realize. Like, in terms of, if the dugout's up, that's the role players. Like, if we're getting our butts kicked.
Yeah.
And those are the people on the bench are the ones that are keeping you up.
The motivators, for sure.
I know with, at least in softball, we had roles within, like, being on we do like different charts. So we had, like, one person would be doing, like, a pitching chart. So every time our pitcher pitched, they wrote down, so we had, like, our stat book, and then, like, we had, like, our own little charts. Same thing with, like, hitting. We had, like, our own ranking system of, like, a line drive is this point, a grounder is this point. Someone would keep track of that. So there was a lot to do in the dugout, which is nice. It's fun. You definitely want to be out there, though.
Yeah, it's like, as an athlete too, it's like hard to like accept that role that, like, you're not gonna be playing all those minutes. And, like, I think as a young athlete, like you said, coming off, like, playing every second of every, like,
so high school to college, I think is the biggest example.
High school, like, literally every second of everything, and then you go on this team and you're like, oh well, I'm playing like 3 minutes of this game. Literally 3. What do I do? Like, I don't know. I think it was a little bit of a learning curve for me, like, like, wanting my teammates to succeed, but I also wanted myself to succeed. So I'm like, oh, I want to, like, go prove myself on the field. But, like, the same point, if my teammates are playing good, I'm like, all right, like, this is cool to watch. Like, it's also good to watch, but it's, like, hard. It's really hard to, like, be supportive and motivational and there for your teammates when you're not playing all the time, when you want to play because you're an athlete and you, like, want to be in the field. Like, it's hard.
100%.
It's a challenge.
Well, and that's, I was a big Alabama softball fan, and I even carry this to this day. It's called Mudita, and it's basically it's a Buddhist kind of I don't know if it's like a motto or a mantra. So it's like a Buddhist mantra, and it basically translates to selfless joy. So Mudita means selfless joy, and essentially how Alabama softball translated that to is like it's finding joy in the success of others. Their success is your success. Your success is kind of that kind of, like, mantra where it's like, I want to beat you. I want to be on the field, but heck, if you're going to be out there and you're better than me, then I want what's best for the team.
Yes. And
I want to support you and I want to uplift you, which if I can be honest, it's hard to do. It's hard to really be in that kind of, again, flipping that switch. But at the end of the day, you're all in this together. And I feel like the one advice,
and you all want to win, so, like, that's the common goal, right?
Oh,
like
100%.
Everyone wants to win.
So you're all on the same path, all on the same. Yeah. You're all on the same train.
Whether you're doing it or I'm doing it, we're still doing it.
We're still doing it together, like.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting, like, professional side of this too. It's like I think for me in the military, like, females don't necessarily have each other's back. Like, it's always like, how far can I beat you? Like, how far can I beat you? I don't have any female, like, okay, I have some female, like, role models in the military, like, but they're few and far in between, I feel like. Most of them are, like, male, and, like, that mentality of, like, so many friends that I talk about, like, are at different bases and stuff like that, are like, I have 0 female role models. They all just want to, like, they're out for themselves. That's it. And I'm like, like, that's so hard to hear.
I bet that's so
It
frustrating.
hits me in, like, my heartstrings. I'm like, how
Especially being a female athlete, and if you're coming from an environment of, like,
when
we're all
females are
here
putting
to
females down, it's the worst. There's nothing worse than that. I'm like, we have so much that we're already going through that's challenging, like, from, like, the patriarchy that, like, I'm like, come on, women, like, support each other. Like, it's not that hard to be like, you know, like, just a compliment, or, like, understanding that someone's working really hard and being like, I support, like, you just killed that. I'm going to tell you killed that. Celebrating the little things in life is super important. And I think, like, from another female, it moves mountains.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Hearing from another female, like, I see you, I know what you're doing, and it's making a difference, and I also can see you as a role model is, like, instrumental to hear.
Well, and I think what gets lost in translation is you can, like, if it's some, like, I'll be honest, everything's a competition. I'm super competitive. You can make anything a competition, but
Healthy competition.
Yeah, exactly. Healthy competition. And it's like, you shouldn't have to put someone down to try to elevate yourself. Like, if you were put in that, role position, or that job, or that's, a specific role, whether it be your team, whether it be, your unit, or, in your division, embrace your role, but do not be content. There's a difference.
Yeah, and you don't have to step on other people's heads to get where you want. Like, you should be able to find another way without
see what they're doing right
down. And follow it, or
and follow
and do
it.
something else. Like, yeah,
it's as simple as that. And I think the hardest thing to do, I don't want to call girls out, but I feel like it's, as females, we're definitely more emotional beings. And I think we internalize a lot of things.
Yeah.
So,
well, the threats are different when it's females, I feel like, for some reason. There's, like, a huge threat, female threat that's just, like, not talked about anyway.
And I feel, and guys probably feel it too. I feel like that's also coming from our personal experiences. It's like you're just, like, you're sizing people up. Everyone's sizing people up and stuff like that. But it's like, figure out what they're doing. But even more so, you have to be objective. And it sounds so easy to do, but it's not. And that it's 100% not. Like, you have to look at it in like a sport context. You're a role player. You want your teammate's spot. All right, what are they doing good? What do I need to improve on? And that's a conversation you can have with your coach. I've had multiple conversations with various coaches from various teams, like, hey, like, what do I need? And that's even in the work fit. What do I need to do? And what do you need to see from me to get from point A to point B? And again, people might disagree with me. Say, well, I'm doing X, so-and-so is doing Y. Where are we? And what do I need to do to be in that starting role, be in that position? And if they can't tell, they should be able to tell you, whether it's a coach, whether it's a supervisor, a boss, they should be able to tell you, well, this is why.
XYZ, yeah.
X, Y, Z, this is why. Sport, the one thing my dad always, the number one thing my dad taught me is numbers don't lie. If you're able to objectively look at the numbers and see what you're producing versus, and again, people can disagree with me. If you can look at your numbers and see what you're producing, and you look at someone else's numbers and see what they're producing. And again, this is all within the same environment where I still want to uplift them. I'm not trying to bring them down. But I'm coming for your spot. It's about a healthy competitiveness.
What if you don't get the opportunity? Like, what if you just don't have the stats to even, there's no stats?
Exactly.
That's the hardest part, I think, like, especially as an athlete.
Or you don't have that same amount of opportunity. Like, a perfect stat is batting average. Well, if you're a pinch hitter and you're maybe getting one at bat a game, but someone else is getting, 2-3 at bats a game.
is a huge difference.
Yeah, there's a huge difference statistically.
Because sometimes I feel like stats can lie because you can manipulate stats so that they support something, and that's like there's a lot of bias in stats. So it's just like my side of things where I'm like,
I work in research. I totally. It's like no, okay, yeah.
You can manipulate stats. You can manipulate the numbers. I can say, I can twist a couple things and show that, like, I'm probably the best whatever in the world, and not that I'm the best at anything in the world, but like I could manipulate something and be like, yeah, this proves I'm the best at X, Y, and Z in the world.
That's a good point.
Maybe I'm just trying to challenge your mentality a little bit.
But no, challenge it. I love that.
But I do think it's important to note that, like, sometimes the stats shouldn't even be a proponent in it. It's like, and sometimes it's not even just you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like coaching biases. It's things like that. It's like coaches have favorites. Like this, that. Like, you don't want to have favorites. I know I'm a coach. Like, I don't want to have favorites.
Well, it's so hard objectively. Even like when I was coaching, like I had this one like little girl on the team, and she wasn't like the best player, but she was just such a hustler.
Yeah, I love those
kids. And it's like, and eventually, like, and she listened throughout the entire season, got better, and she was hitting better than, like, one of our, like, other kids on the team because they just wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
And you could tell at a young age, like, they're either going to get it or they don't, or they're either going to listen or they're not going to. Coachability is huge. But to your point, it's super hard to be objective and really.
Sometimes you just sit down with a coach and they're like just spewing a ton of things at you that just don't make any sense. I'm like, okay, so it's not that 100%. I'm a bad player or this, that, whatever. It's like, I think that the best thing a coach can do for a player is give transparency on, like, on things that's happening. Because I've had coaches that just walk around everything. I'm like, okay, I'll bring up a point and they'll be like, yeah, this. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with what I just said. I'm like, please just give me
or they're trying or
make you feel better. That's the thing. I'm like, I don't need to I'm a competitive athlete. I can take the constructive criticism, and I would much rather you be like, hey, you suck at this. Let's get better at this.
Let's get better.
And
100%.
Like, and go that way and give me a tangible goal to achieve for, like, the next season or the next, the spring or whatever, the summer or whatever I'm trying to do. I would much rather have that, and I try so hard to do that with my athletes. Just be like, well, hey, like, the reason you didn't play or you didn't play as many minutes is because, like, last game you did X, Y, and Z, and that's not what we were looking for. And, like, we told you that we weren't looking for that. And I can pull up film. I can pull up all the support to show you that this wasn't happening. And that's why it's not happening. Yeah. It's not because you're a terrible athlete or this.
That's the worst thing you can do is, again, transparency is the biggest thing. But, I'm going to go back to my numbers. Some's got to add up. Like,
it's different. It's not always just the numbers. It could be film. You could go off film.
Or I'll give you a perfect example. I had a coach where I was told, doing really well in practice, but you're not really doing well in games. Okay. Next year. Oh, well, when we put you in, you're producing and you're doing well in games, but, like, you're not consistent at practice. Like, it's just like this weird transparency and consistency. I think that's all players need is transparency and consistency.
100%. It's like, if you just tell me what I need to do, what I can work on, like, then. And sometimes it's literally that someone's better than you, and, like, that's a hard reality.
Yeah,
in itself.
But that's what's being objective. Like, it's one thing to sit here and be like, you know what, so and so's got better arm than me, or I'm like dang, like, they got a really good swing, like, and that's hard to admit, but again, that's how you get better. You're like, okay,
chasing that.
They're doing better than that. They're drop stepping better. Like, okay, that's what I got. That's what I got to work on. Or like even like being a pinch runner, like, oh, so and so they have a little bit better awareness than you. I'm like, okay, so I'm like, I'll watch them and okay, so in that situation, like. That's how if you come from that, not only from a player but from a coaching, like, hey, watch so and so. I'm like, hey, they're doing this a little bit better. If you can get a little and that's creating that healthy environment. Now, that's not to say we all disagree with our coaches. We definitely have all had those moments where we're just blown off steam. It's like, Coach so-and-so was a freaking blah.
Like, sir, my freaking players do it all the time.
like, what the hell are they thinking?
Yeah.
Which I get it. I get it's a, what did you say? It's like a camaraderie builder.
Yeah, I mean, you build like relationships
really
with your teammates based off of the mutual, like, I guess not like, I don't know what the word would be, like, you just like don't always see eye to eye with your coach, and sometimes your coach has to be the bad guy, and that's okay. Like,
somebody's got to be the bad guy in every story. If you think about it, just to get it all out.
And unfortunately, it's usually your head coach. And like, I feel so bad for my head coach. He's a great guy. He does. I am so fortunate to work with him. Like, he has taught me so many things I didn't even think about. Like, and just running a soccer team, he just like knows it like the back of his hand. Recruiting, everything. Like, there's so many things I can learn from him. Such a good coach.
Yeah.
But the team is sometimes ruthless. And I'm like, hey, listen, like, he has the best. He only thinks about you guys. I guarantee he only thinks about you. If he's not thinking about his family, he's thinking about you guys, and he's probably thinking about you guys just as much. Like, there's probably an overlap.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm like, 100%. I'm like, you guys just need to realize that he has your best interest at hand, because if I can sit here and be like, he's going to carry us through anything, you can sit there and be like, he's going to carry us through anything. But you guys do bond over the fact that, like, he's probably the one.
There's definitely some bonding going on.
Yeah.
There's, and it's different on different teams. You know, some people keep their opinions to themselves, and then there's like other players I've played with and experienced. I'm like they say it in the dugout. I'm like, oh. I'm like, is he gonna hear that?
Yeah.
I was like, like some teams I played on, they were a little bit more subtle, and this is more like high school and college. You know, club ball. You know, with parents, so you could talk shit about, I guess, your parent or like their so and so's parent or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, you may not disagree with it, but you have to, you have to respect the decision. You might not like it.
Yeah.
It might be the most wackadoodle thing in the world.
Yeah.
And you might disagree with it, but there's a hierarchy, and there's
knowing the role of the coach.
Understanding the role the coach is playing. Understanding
is always the team, not just the individual, and that's a hard reality as well. Is like to realize that, like, at the end of the if you're bringing down coaching to like the nitty gritty, like the very, very, like, you know, broad line of it, or like, I guess it would be narrow, whatever, doesn't matter. It would be like, the goal of a coach is to win games. The goal of coach is not to do like, I mean, there's a ton of things for coaches to do, but
100%.
Like, that's like the very first like goal, is that a goal of a coach
that's
is
objective
to win
one.
games. Yeah, you want to win games, and that's like the very basic point of which coaching 101, win games. You know, and everyone wants to win. The whole team wants to win. The coaching staff wants to win. There's no one that doesn't want to win, especially if you're a competitive athlete in college. Like, who doesn't want to win?
Yeah, 100%.
It makes it way more fun.
100%.
But fostering that environment is like, you know, it's everyone's role. And it starts from the coaching staff. It starts from what the coaching staff wants to, you know, breed and foster to the team, and then the team has to buy in from the coaching staff. It's the buy-in that really makes the difference between a good team and a great team.
Biggest thing that's helped me, not only as a player, but also just in the workforce, is by understanding everyone else's job, I could do my job better. A perfect example is like as an outfielder. So as an outfielder, as a center fielder, you could see everything where the play is going on. And depending on where the ball's hit, you have to react, and the whole place move. Though everyone shifts into certain positions. Yeah. So if I know, okay, hit to left field, there's a runner on first. All right, I got to back up second. Oh, she's rounding. I got to go that way because she's shifting, because the third baseman is shifting back, but now there's no one to back them up. Yeah. Like, for me, it's helped me by understanding all the other puzzle pieces. I could do my job better. It's the same, like, I do like a lot of exercise testing for my work. So we put them on a treadmill. We have a whole bunch of equipment on them. And you have your computer person, you have your safety person, you might have another one taking like, we have like other different charts that they like point at. And you can't do all of those roles at once, but understanding what each of those persons are doing and staying, it's almost like staying in your lane. You got to stay in your lane.
Oh, yes, certainly. That was great, actually. That's great. It's the same thing for soccer. You know, you shift, like, the ball gets passed to one side, everyone shifts. The second one person doesn't shift, or one person, like, it's, like, a little bit complacent, or, like, like, lazy, or whatever.
Yeah.
No one's lazy, whatever. You know, second someone slips up, like, the whole thing's broken down, and that's how goals are scored. That's exactly how. And I think it goes for, like you said, the professional life is the same way. Like, knowing your role and not, like, overstepping. I think I had that problem when I was, like, a security director, because our assistant security director at the concert venues I worked at, it was really hard for me to go from that supervisory role to, like, a management role, because I wanted to do everything, because I knew how to do everything, so I knew how to do it quicker.
Managing people it's a skill in itself. Like, coordinating and project management. It
was so different. It was like, I would go out, and I found myself being exhausted, because I would do my job as a manager and then also do the 15 other jobs in the venue, because I was like, I can do it better. Like, and it's like, all right, I got to take a step back. I got to trust that my people will do what they need to do.
100%.
And trust 100%. Is huge in a sport team too. You got to trust that the person next to you is going to do their job, so that we can be productive and we can save energy and we can win games. Like, that's how you win games, is by trusting the people around you.
Yeah, it's just, I think, was it Bill Belichick? He's like, do your job.
Do your job so that other people can do theirs, or something like that. Yeah. 100%.
It's like, just do your job. If everyone I don't know who gave me this advice, or maybe it was an advice I heard, but it's like, if everyone does their job, you might actually look like a team.
Facts. You way more likely to win games.
And at the end of the day, and to bring it full circle with, like, role player, like, just when you get called upon, do your job to the best of your ability. And sometimes that can be a lot of pressure. Like, in softball, if you're a pinch hitter and you get called in to go, the only reason you're getting called in to go pinch hit is because they think you can, make something happen. Like, I was a slapper, so I just got on base. I'm not hitting home runs. But they believe, okay, in this situation, meaning you can get on base. Or they'll call you in because they know they need a run, which will usually be at the lower end, where, like, it's, the second to last inning, 0-0 ball game. And you just have to kind of embrace that role and really just relish it.
Yeah. And the pressure of that must be crazy. I can't even imagine. Like, ugh.
But yeah,
soccer's not like that. They don't be like, you go in the. I mean, sometimes goalies, they'll be like, oh, go be like the PK, like, goalkeeper. Like, could it be me? Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the stress if you were just a PK goalkeeper. Like, what? Props to them, because I can't even think about that. I'm like, good thing I'm not a goalkeeper. But that's like true. Like, the pressure of that must be, like, really.
It definitely it can be. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, just switching it off. It's like, all right, great, you put me in, and then when they don't put you in, I'd be like,
it's just not that. Is that what you did? Like, you just, like, talk yourself, like, it's just not that. Like, it's just something. Like, how do you
it was
take
really,
that down?
So a lot of people wouldn't believe me. It was actually, so we were at a round. This reminds me of a memory. So we were at a round table, at DePaul, and we would go around. And one of the questions was, we were, like, really into mindfulness. I think it was, like, our second year. I think our coach, like, really got into mindfulness, which I completely agree with. I think it's awesome. And we went around saying, like, what is our thought process in the, like, when we go up at bat. And it's actually super interesting, because some people are more like, I'm going to do this for the team. I'm going to hype myself up. Some people are like, oh, well, like, are more, like, kind of mellow. And my dad actually he knew when I was thinking. He would literally see the film and be like, I knew you were overthinking that at bat. And he always said, and even my batting coach, Coach Bustos, she's like, awesome, just awesome person. Have a plan. So I just simplified it to, like, okay, in slapping, you can do a lot of different things. You can bunt, you can do what they call, like, a chop slap, where you basically bounce it. Or you can do what they call hard slap, so you do kind of a liner. Basically, I'm just trying to hit the ball and get on base for them to hit me in. So I just made it that simple. I'm like, all right, I'm going to put the ball here. So I told them when they came to me, I'm just thinking of where I'm putting the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember the reaction was just kind of like
Simplify.
quiet. I feel like people didn't believe me. I'm like, it's not that deep, man. Ailaina, this is an awesome conversation.
Yeah, no, I think it's been good. I mean, we talked about like, roles and like embracing that sort of thing and like knowing, who we are, and that like we all have a role to play in sports, and it's not necessarily what you probably thought going into like being a college athlete, but like just embracing that specific role that you have, whether it be, in the sports realm or professional realm.
Embracing your role, embracing mudita, and never be satisfied.